When I woke up that morning, there was something I felt. Like I felt different, and it's kill everything mindset.
Open eye, feel the waves cut through me, hypnotized by the sounds I'm breathing in. Hold tight, chemicals collide. Hold tight, hold tight, hold tight.
What's up, everybody? So we are finally back here with the second portion of Pat's story here, the interview portion. You guys already seen everything that happened leading up to like what his interest was in getting into the entire, powerlifting niche. So here we are now, finally competed at the Arnold. It's over. Like, time flies like that. It's amazing how fast it flies. So what we're going to talk about is just kind of like how that experience was leading up from our last event back in August, was that? All the way back up to now. So kind of talk about it. Like, you went through, what, a 16-week prep?
16 weeks. Changed up a lot. We got the sponsor with meal prep grind. Cleaned up the diet a lot. Really focused in on like mobility work, like taking care of your body, and also going through 2 8-week peak phases.
So kind of explain, like, what are the 8-week peak phases?
So for the first, my 16-week prep pretty much splits into 2, and the first 8 weeks, you're doing 4 weeks of like hypertrophy, like a high volume work that leads into just straight strength peaking. Then you pretty much drop from like 8 to 10s right down to triples and doubles. Mm-hmm. And I think the first 8-week cycle ended up being perfectly for New Year's down at the Warehouse gym.
Yeah, so talk about that. That was absolutely insane. So Pat went down to the Warehouse. I was actually going to go with him, and he went down to the Warehouse by himself on New Year's. Like, that's crazy to me because that just shows that's like that hustle gene that most people aren't willing to do, and the extra step that they aren't willing to take when most of his buddies, they were all going out,
Yeah, everyone was going to the bar.
So talk about what happened that night. That night was absolutely crazy to me.
It was like a last-minute decision. I was waiting to hear back from multiple people to come down to Warehouse with me. And I got to the point where it was, I think, 9:30, and they were opening at 10, and I was like, screw it, I'm going by myself. 2 hours, stopped, got some food, showed up, didn't know a single person in line, got in there. By the end of it, everybody wanted to know my name. It was hilarious. Worked up to 850, most I've ever put on my back. I ended up misracking it. Coming out from underneath it, I had 2 people either telling me, stop, take a break, come back to it, or get your mind right and get your ass back underneath the weight. And that's what I did in front of everyone who was in the gym.
This is yours. Go back. Go back. Here we go. Here we go. Come on. Come on. Let's go. Dig it. Come on.
And see, for most people that don't know, the owners of this gym, the Warehouse gym that he's been traveling to just about every single Sunday, so he could use the monolift, because a monolift is very hard to find in this area. They're very rare, is that correct? So he would go down to this Warehouse gym where there are 2 people in the fitness industry by the name of Dana Lynn and Rob Bailey, and they own this gym, and they are huge faces in the fitness industry, and those 2 were there, and he was, like, he's talking about this mentality. He had to be like, I need to get under that weight again because they are here. Like, this is like once in a lifetime opportunity. It was kind of his time. And I tell him all the time, like, there's just certain things you're born for, and this is something he was born for. So, like, how does that make you feel that, like, you're doing something that you just kind of...
It's just when the opportunity, like, strikes, you got to act on it. And I feel like all these months ago, these years ago, this is my 3rd year in the sport, and every year it's just been progressively adding things that get better. And as you watch, you can see the progression go through. It's like a movie.
Yeah, it's really crazy to me because, like, that's the same thing. I talk to people about this all the time. You have to scale, and, like, even when you don't see, like, you're seeing the biggest steps, when you look back on it all, it's kind of like, wow, I was here and now I'm all the way here. and like you said, it's very progressive. Kind of talk about the day being at the Arnold and what that experience was like, and did it go as expected or what?
I walked in there with 3 goals, 2,100 total, 900-pound squat, and a W. I won, came up short 35 pounds of the 2,100 total, and I missed the 900 squat. I missed it for depth. You'll see it in the film. It flew. It's 900 that day felt as if it was 820 the day just in Morehouse.
It's crazy. Like, what you guys need to understand about Pat is, in the time that I've known him, so me and Pat go way back into like junior high school, but then there was about a 4-year period where we didn't talk because of college and whatnot. So when I started this up and he was doing his powerlifting, I reached out to him. So in the last like 8 months or so of really getting to know Pat, his state of mind never changes. It always stays the same, and no matter like the high or the low, his like state of mind always stays the same. So when he missed that 900-pound squat, to everybody, it looked like a good squat, and even the judges after the fact were like, it's a good squat, but we need a side view. And he was calm about it. He didn't, because some powerlifters would get aggressive, or just some people in general.
Throw a hissy fit.
But it's out of his control. He just showed them what he could show them. He kept his voice at a monotone level, and then he just shook their hand and moved on. And I think that's what people need to take away from that, and you guys will see that his state of mind just never changed, and he was like, all right, next lift. So you missed that 900-pound squat. What was your mentality next?
Finished the meet. We went all the way out to Ohio, 7 hours packed into a car to do that, to go out there and watch me. I was fortunate enough to have you guys at Collabs, my family, multiple of my friends, one from the fraternity and from Wilkes-Barre. I probably had the biggest group out there, like with me to support. It was great. But yeah, I finished the meet. Once you get the first squat on the board, the rest of the meet's easy, because that's the hardest part. Once you get that first squat on the board, then you kind of level out, like the nerves and all the stress that you put on yourself. We're looking at it now, April 15th. I think it's from the time of the Arnold. It would have been 6 weeks. Now we're under 3, and I'm going to be doing a squat only meet. I want to get the 900 on the board.
And I think it's a blessing in disguise, to be honest with all of you, because, like he said, that 900-pound squat flew, and I was there to see that. And I think you're going to potentially squat more than 900. And, even though it's not at the Arnold, one of the biggest stages in the entire world, 900 is not in the books for you right now. So if he goes to this next one, the Powerpalooza in York, Pennsylvania, that will then be put in the books, and I think it's going to be more than a 900-pound squat, which will then, in hindsight, look a lot better. So one thing I want to ask you, though, there was someone, I don't remember his name, but there was someone at this competition at the Arnold that was starting with the same opening weight as you, or actually a heavier opening weight, and he, I'm not going to say you were nervous, but it definitely kind of caught your eye.
So walking into the Arnold, I was expecting, walk out I'd have the biggest squat, I was opening with 810, and that morning I got a text from my buddy, Aaron Tomei, and apparently he was on the XPC website and they released the openers. So this is 3 hours before the competition, and I get a text that says, you got one guy opening higher than you on squat. He opened at 830. Now that's my baby. That's, from the beginning, that's the number one thing that I've had, was my big squat. So I'm looking at 810, thinking, all right, we're gonna make big jumps. We're gonna go right for the 9. So I think me not worrying about that kid made it all come together during the meet, because he ended up dropping his opener in the beginning from 8:30 to 8:15. So that kind of made me feel a little better.
Did good.
Yeah, he did, and I mean, and the thing is, like, obviously, kudos to him, and you know, he obviously lifted really heavy weight for all of his lifts, but you know, just that's part about staying in your lane, because that's so easy to let that mentally seep into your brain that, wow, I have someone who's really going to compete with me, when you went into there thinking like, this is my show. This is it. You know what I mean? So for you to be able to kind of stay in your lane and not really worry about that and put it to the side is like, you know, really admirable, because I think that should show a lot to people that, you know, no matter what anyone else is doing, like, you have to worry about yourself. And at the end of the day, like, if you don't do your thing and take care of your business, like, nothing else matters. What was it like having your family there the entire time? Like, I saw your dad, like, he was, you know, your dad has a weird way of showing, you know, his support for you, but I think it's like, seeing it this past weekend, it was honestly awesome, because it's just a different way of getting you kind of motivated.
My dad and my family have a way of getting to me when I'm competing. My mom and my dad were the big ones on me that weekend, you know, making sure, like, I had food, like, my mind was right, because it was kind of stressful going out there, you know, trying to get everyone organized and all that. It goes on me, because that was my weekend. Mm-hmm. And for them to be there and just say, like, you know what you did, you trained hard for this is your day, like, go out and do your thing, that's the best.
You gotta understand, like, Pat's throwing a lot of weight on his back, so it's only natural for his parents to, like, be like,
they're worried.
They're definitely worried. 900 pounds is a lot of freaking weight, so I mean, that's only natural. So they're trying to be cautious, but you know, Pat's been doing this long enough, so you know what you're doing, right? Yeah. So, and having to drive a full 7 hours for that is, you know, kind of crazy to me, because it's easy to get tight, you know, to tighten up. I know you had a full, you know, night to sleep it off and everything, but you know, going through those full drives and everything, and you know, making sure your range of motion is still intact, you know, that's like super important.
My hips were super tight that weekend, and it's just, I knew what I was going to do in the night before, stretched out, hit the hot tub with the cold hot therapy, like jump right into the hot tub, right into the pool, stretch out, do some calisthenics in the pool, feel real nice, which ended up being like the key to waking up that day, was hitting Lifetime Fitness the night before and then the night after.
Now the event itself was super long, like, and I think that's what I love about stepping my feet into other people's interests and niches, is because now I get to kind of live it through them. You know what I mean? So I was there. We arrived at 1:30, and we didn't end up getting out of there till 12:30 at night. You know what I mean? So, and that's the other thing. Like, you're doing the 3 biggest lifts that you could possibly do in the sport, and in one day, you know, and you're doing 3 for each one. So kind of talk about the longevity of the day and how you kind of keep your mind right, because, you know, especially when his squat is 900 pounds, and like, one, he didn't get it, but that's his, like you said, that's your baby, you know. So after that, because that's the first lift, keeping your mind right for the bench press, and then especially deadlift, because your last deadlift, you were one of the last deadlifters, right?
I was the last.
You were the last deadlifter, and that was probably around 11:30 at night, and we started, your first lift was at 4:30 in the evening, so, you know.
Yeah, it was a long day. Just keeping my brain, like, at ease.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of worried about what's going to happen on the platform, just know that you just rely on your prep that you did to transfer over to the platform. As long as you have, like, the energy, the stamina that you built up through the prep, and it's kill everything mindset. When I woke up that morning, there was something I felt. Like, I felt different. Like, I knew that day was going to be a long haul, but I knew it was going to go quick, and it did. Once we got through the squats, we got back to the bench. Bench isn't my strong suit. So
It's gonna be.
Yeah. Very soon it's going to be. But we got through the bench. I hit the 450. That one I wasn't really too concerned with, just because I know it's not my strong suit. I'm a lower body lifter for sure. But once we got through the bench, I saw that I needed to hit my opener, and I would have broken 2,000, which would have been the first time I broke $2,000.
Really quick is how what he competed at to qualify for the Arnold, like his final lifts, he then opened with at the Arnold, and that just goes to show that like he took the prep seriously. So you finished your last competition with a 405 bench, a 710 deadlift, 7 flat deadlift, and then a 810 squat, and you opened up with all of those.
Yeah, I opened up 810, 410, and 710.
Yeah.
Compared to PA States, which is the qualifier for this Arnold, I believe we had a 19-15 total. To take those lifts in under 6 months and add 150 pounds throughout the three of them in less than 6 months as a drug-free athlete.
That is the point I was waiting for him to talk about right there, like drug-free. I didn't want to bring it up. I was waiting for him to bring it up. Drug-free athlete, 23 years old, and dude, you're squatting 900 pounds. Let's just call it what it is. Like, whether it's in the books or not, you squat 900 pounds, you know what I mean? It flew. And the thing is, like, he has so much more years ahead of him that what he's going to do in the industry of powerlifting is going to be absolutely insane because, like he just said, drug-free. There's a lot of people out there who lift a lot more than him, but bet that they're already on something of some sort.
See, that's another thing that I go into. Is I've had talks with you like about this before. Is I don't care about people who are on the drugs or off the drugs.
Stay in your lane, baby.
It doesn't matter, just because if you have the drive, you have the focus and the discipline. It doesn't matter if you're on every chemical that there is out there or you're natural, because it's all about the mind.
Mm-hmm. I talk about this all the time, especially when I start my personal diet. Or anything in life, like your physical self will only go as far as your mental self. You know what I mean? And like he said, like your mind is a really strong asset that you have, and sometimes it's stronger than your physical self. Because like I said, your physical self will only go as far as your mental self, and his mental self is extremely strong, and that's what puts him above the individuals that do have use chemicals to, compete in these lifts.
Just tunnel vision mindset.
Yeah.
You saw it with PA States. You saw it with this one. I may have a third attempt lift with squat, but I'm always worried about the next squat that I'm going to hit.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I came out from under 900, and they said I missed it. But I say, we're doing it in a month.
Exactly. Yep. That's what I'm talking about. Yep. So you guys see this medal that he has right here on his chest. We were just talking about it, like, on to the next thing. Like, what's the next thing that's going to be happening? And right before we started this interview, like, you were just talking about how that's been in your... Now, I want to disclaim this by saying it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean anything to him, but it's been in your bag for, what, the last 2 weeks?
Since the Arnold.
What does it mean to you?
I mean, it's huge. That's what I worked, 16 weeks for. Without that 900 squat and the 2100 total, I feel like I failed the meet. Walked away with a win. It's just you put these numbers in your head, and you, like, every day, you're working towards them. And if we don't get them, you feel like you failed.
Mm-hmm.
But in all reality, it's not really failed, because when it comes down to it, that day, it's you versus the judges.
100%. 100%. Exactly. And I think that's, like, what's important, too, is going back to his state of mind. Like, he's not too high on the highs or too low on the lows, because some people would take that medal and run with it and be complacent with it, but, like, the squat was the first lift of the meet, and once he didn't hit that 900, like, yeah, you were worried about the rest of the meet, but, like, at the same time, you were on to all right, what's the next competition I compete in so I can hit this squat?
Yeah, it comes down to obviously being in the gym, putting in the hard work. And when I say hard work, it's not just going in, hitting max attempts every week. It's you need to know, how am I pushing my body today to make myself better for next week?
And not missing the small detail stuff too.
Yeah.
You know.
So you're, like I said, the nutrition, the mobility work, like stretching is, I'd say, even more important sometimes than the nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you put the weight on your back and you take it down to form, if you don't hit that form every time with the proper mobility, if your muscles are tight, you have a little bit of like internal rotation on a squat, your elbow isn't right on a bench, you're gonna tear a muscle.
And what did you talk about, that no matter what weight you have on your back or on the deadlift bar, it should all move
Same.
the same?
The same. Because for me, if it doesn't, and I try to dilly-dally with it and play around with the speed or play around with the form, I feel like that puts me at a higher risk for getting injured.
Of course.
So I like to keep everything the same, no matter if it's 135 pounds or it's 865 pounds.
So what do you plan on doing next year going forward with the Arnold? Do you plan on doing the entire, like you did XPC this year, so what do you plan on doing next year?
Next year I plan on doing the XPC again, just because I don't want to train for another federation as of right now. I'd rather have a full year to switch federations. So right now it's RPS and XPC. I'm switching divisions though.
Mm-hmm.
So right now I compete in the elite division. So there's elite and pro. Pro, no drug test. Elite, there's a drug test every time. So I'd be competing, instead of on Friday, I'd be competing on Saturday with, I'd call them like the big dogs.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like if I'm up over 9 now, give it a year, I could be close to where I want to be. 1,000 pounds has always been my goal, like my #1 goal. And if I hit it within this next year, year and a half, I don't know what we're moving on to.
Better things, baby. There's reasons why you don't do it, so like really quick, what are those reasons that you don't do USAPL?
So USAPL is a big time known drug-free organization. So that's, you show up for weigh-ins that day, first thing you're doing when you're getting off the scale, you're going to piss in a cup. It's very good. I do like the USAPL. They are very strict. Depth, I wouldn't worry about too much, just because I can train myself to hit that depth. I can work on the mobility. Their bench calls, super strict. Your bench and then the press off your chest calls are normally like 1 or 2 seconds longer, so it makes it a little bit more difficult on the bench. Your deadlift needs to be super clean, no soft knees, no ramping, nothing like that.
That's like that next, like, is that like that, so you're going to pro because you want to step up?
Yeah.
Is USAPL like?
I think one day, eventually I'm going to switch over to the USAPL. Just not right now, because I am a wrapped squatter. So when I squat, I crank knee wraps on, and USAPL is primarily sleeves. So if I wanted to switch over to the USAPL, I would have to go like the geared division, which is single ply, multiply, like squat suits, bench suits. Which eventually one day I would like to do that, because most people don't know. Single ply suits are essentially like knee wraps for your body.
Yeah.
You need 2 people to help you get into this thing, and it'll add big time numbers to each one of your lifts.
And listen, no matter how you slice it and dice it, like at the end of the day, 900 pounds on your back, going up and down, it's still 900 pounds.
Up is up.
You know, up is up. Like, so no matter what federation you're doing it in, it's still what it is, and people are going to see it, and, you know, the recognition is going to be had. So, you know, but that was super awesome. Like, this entire experience was super dope, in my opinion. It's been amazing to watch over the last 8 months, see him grow and just kind of flourish in what I said he was born to do. And I think, you know, I told you that a while ago, and it's kind of stuck with you on that, because there's certain things that we're just born to do. And I personally believe Pat was born for this stage, and it's only going to get better for him. Yeah, man, so like I said, you know what our slogan is every single time: live with a purpose to serve a purpose. That's Pat. You're looking at a living embodiment of that. He found his purpose, and if you go back to his story and everything that we did, 8 months ago, it took him a while, but then he found it. He found his purpose. He moved with it. He's living it to the fullest, and now he's crushing it. So you guys go out, do the same, find your passion, find your purpose, and live it out to the fullest. But we'll catch you guys next time. Let's get it. Word, bro. That was good.